Silas lived a life measured in coins. Each glint of gold, each clink of silver, another grain in the hourglass of his years. He bartered, he bargained, he hoarded. His heart, once soft as velvet, hardened into a thing of iron and greed. He had acres, he had mansions, he had coffers overflowing, yet he ate his meals alone, the silence echoing louder than any banquet hall. No loving hand to warm his, no laughter to chase away the shadows gathering at the edges of his days. He was rich, yes, richer than kings, but every sunset whispered the truth. Time, unlike gold, could not be bought. Then, on a night when the wind howled like a banshee, death came knocking. Silas, clutching a bag of gold tighter than his own heart, knew who stood upon his doorstep. The air grew cold, the candles sputtered, and a voice, like the rasp of grave dust, whispered, "Your time is due, Silas." Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through Silas's greed for the first time. He who bargained with princes trembled before this skeletal figure. "Not yet," he croaked, his voice a dry rustle of leaves. "Give me more time. I will pay any price." Death chuckled, a sound like bones rattling in a tomb. "Time," it rasped, "is not for sale, old man." But Silas, cunning even in terror, spied a flicker of amusement in those empty sockets. A spark of hope ignited in his chest. "Just one more day," he pleaded, his voice gaining strength. "One more day to put my affairs in order." Death raised a skeletal eyebrow. Desperation fueled Silas's mind. He pointed a trembling finger at the door. "Write tomorrow on my door," he croaked, "and I will honor my word. Tomorrow I will be yours." Death paused, considering the absurdity of it. The sheer audacity of this mortal's plea seemed to amuse the ancient entity. With a sigh that echoed like a dying wind, Death inscribed the word tomorrow upon the door. And for the first time in centuries, Death, intrigued, decided to play a game. The next day, Death returned, a skeletal smirk on its bony face. Silas, pale but resolute, pointed at the word. "Tomorrow," he croaked, his voice stronger now, laced with a hint of triumph. Death, bound by its word, turned away, its bony shoulders shaking with silent laughter. This became their routine. Each day, Death would arrive, its presence casting a chill over the opulent mansion. And each day, Silas would point to the word tomorrow, his fear giving way to a perverse sense of control. He hired artisans, their fingers nimble with fear, to inscribe the word on every surface, walls, floors, even the ceiling. His once grand mansion became a macabre testament to his obsession. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. Silas, surrounded by his tomorrows, found no solace. His fear, though suppressed, gnawed at him. The inevitability of Death's embrace was a shadow he could not outrun. The gold he clung to felt cold and meaningless. His victory, he realized, was hollow. He was trapped in a gilded cage of his own making, forever teetering on the precipice of tomorrow. Then one day, Death arrived with a new inscription for the door. Instead of the usual tomorrow, it was a single, chilling word. Now. Panic seized Silas. His carefully constructed facade crumbled. He scrambled, a desperate animal caught in a trap. He raced through the mansion, past the mocking tomorrows that lined every surface. He hid in his vault, the air thick with the scent of aged parchment and gold, but the metal walls offered no comfort. He cowered in the grand ballroom, its emptiness a cruel reminder of his solitary existence. Finally, he stumbled into a forgotten chamber, a dusty relic of his past. It was the nursery, untouched since he was a boy, filled with forgotten toys and faded tapestries. A desperate plan formed in his mind. He piled the toys haphazardly, creating a barricade. He huddled behind it, his breath ragged, his heart pounding against his ribs. Death entered the mansion, its skeletal fingers tracing the word now on the door. It glided through the halls, its empty sockets gleaming with amusement. It found Silas's hiding place easily, of course, it always did. But as Death peered into the nursery, a strange thing happened. It paused, its bony brow furrowed in confusion. The sight of the nursery, the forgotten toys, the faint scent of milk and honey, sparked something in the ancient entity, a memory, perhaps, of a time before it was death, a time when it too knew the innocence of childhood. It backed away slowly, its bony fingers trailing along the wall. Then, with a rustle of robes and a sigh that echoed with the weight of millennia, Death turned and fled. Silas, hearing the receding footsteps, peered cautiously from behind the barricade. He was alone. He had cheated death again. He emerged from the nursery, his steps slow and unsteady. The mansion, once a prison of his own making, now felt vast and empty. He walked past the countless tomorrows, their mockery echoing in the silence. He had won, yes, but what had he won? He was still alone, his existence a hollow shell. The gold he had amassed meant nothing. The time he had gained stretched before him, an endless desert of tomorrows. Death, in its strange mercy, had played the cruelest jest. It had given Silas what he craved, more time, an eternity of tomorrows to contemplate the emptiness of his victory, the futility of his existence. He was a prisoner in his own gilded cage, forever awaiting a tomorrow that would never come.